Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chef Andy and welcome yet again to another episode of Lunch Guide. Today I'm feeling a little motivated about something we'll be doing today. We're going to be doing some English scones. Without further ado, I'll just introduce the ingredients in front of us. So I've got some nice beautiful raisins here that have just been soaked. So these are very nice and moist. I've got some regular white sugar, I've got some flour there, I've got some regular milk, I've got some vanilla yogurt, some baking powder, some icing sugar, some butter, some eggs, and just a bit more flour here just for dusting. So without further ado, we are going to jump into a short break. I recommend if you're taking any notes, this is the best chance for you to grab your pen and paper. And when you come back from the break, we'll just go for it. See you in a little while. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For those who missed out on the beginning, we are going to be doing some English scones. Very simple dish. Something you can be able to make at home. You can actually be able to serve this over breakfast. You can serve this as a snack or rather even as a starch on its own. I'm just going to now show you what we are going to be doing with all these beautiful ingredients. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be whisking my flour. I'm going to be sieving my flour really quickly. The reason for this is you want to make sure there is no impurities in your flour. So I'm just going to go with 2 cups of flour. And you are also allowed to use a plastic sieve if you don't have a metallic one like the one I'm using now. Okay, so very simple technique. So 2 cups flour, 1 cup sugar. Then I'm going to go with just 3/4 cups of vanilla yogurt. I'm going to add some baking powder to that, and I'm just going to crack 2 whole eggs. So remember, you're also not limited to use free-range eggs. You can go with free-range, you can go with actually I always recommend, if you're really looking for a good pastry, just always go with regular eggs. Look for organic eggs, they're the best and they're healthier for you. So just to that, we're going to add 3/4 cups of the raisins. Remember, this was soaked in water for about an hour, and then I just strained them off. I let them sit and dry off a little bit, and all we're going to do now is mix this together. So I'm going to be using a wooden spoon for that process. I'm just going to work right around it. So what you're looking for is a very doughy mixture. Remember, this is supposed to be able to you're supposed to actually be able to roll this out even as you're setting it onto your baking tray. It's a very beautiful snack as well for kids. Very handy if you're actually trying to think of something to pack for them to carry to school. I would also recommend you can serve this with a bit of jam on the side. It really goes well. Right, so we've got a nice runny mixture in there. So just to get this a little more textured, I'm just going to add just a bit of flour. I'm just going to give that quick mix. So remember, you're not also limited to work with your hands. If you find that it's a little easier to do it by hand, I always recommend do it like that. Or if you also have an electric mixer, you can also just use that and you get the same consistency at the end. So we're just going to add a small amount of flour in there. Our mixture is still a little runny. Right, so this is about ready. Right, so very simple technique as I mentioned. Now I'm going to show you a tray that I had actually just greased earlier. So basically I'm going to be using a regular baking sheet, but first of all, one thing you need to remember, you need to grease your tin really well. Make sure there's a nice coating of butter on it. Remember, you don't want your pastries to stick to it, and you want a nice even color even underneath as you try and brown it on the bottom and on the top. So to this, I'm just going to show you how to prepare your tray. So I'm just going to add a bit of flour to my tray. And all I'm going to do is shake it a little bit. Make sure you've got a nice thin layer of flour. Make sure to go all the way around. I find it easier to do it this way because it actually allows your flour to spread out evenly. And all I recommend is once this is done, just hold it on top of your bowl and just pat off the excess. Now we're just going to go back to our mixture, and I'm just going to show you a technique of how to get this onto your tray. So first thing you need to do before you even start setting anything on your tray, you want to reheat your oven. So I'm just going to get both elements going, and I'm going to set it at 200. And we're just going to give that a few seconds to heat up while we get this ready to go. So very, very simple technique. So all you're going to do is you're going to dust your working surface. I like to work on the board, it's a little easier. All right, and all I'm going to do is move this mixture onto the board, like so. So as you can see, it's a little runny, it's not very stiff, and this is exactly what you're looking for. Remember, this is going to give you a very, very fluffy scone. Right, so I'm just going to get that onto the board. I'm gonna get this off the way here. And all we are going to do now is give that a bit of dusting. And all we are going to do is work the dough by hand. So remember, the idea is to just try and fold in a bit more flour in there. This is just to give it a bit of a texture so that it can be able to hold its shape. So I always recommend add a little flour at a time. Don't put too much at once. You might not be able to get it out. So very, very simple. Right, I'm just gonna get that excess off my fingertips there. So it's a very, very messy job, but believe me, the work really pays off, especially once you see this come out of the oven and they look really, really good and golden. All right, so I'm just gonna clean my hands quickly, and we're just gonna take a short commercial break, and when we come back, I will be able to show you what this looks like when it comes out of the oven. I'm also going to show you a few techniques of how to garnish this and how to finish it off. And we're just going to go straight to presenting. So see you after the short break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For those who are just catching up with what we were doing today, we were making some beautiful scones. I have already some that we were doing earlier, but I'm just going to show you the technique of how this gets to your tray and into your oven. So here I have a nice, beautiful dough that we had made earlier. So this I allowed to rest in the refrigerator, in the fridge for about 20 minutes, and it's now just holding shape really well. So it's a very easy technique. As I said, I like to work on my board. It's a little less of a mess. All right, so very, very simple. Always have your baking tin ready as well. So all I'm going to do is sprinkle a bit of flour on the top. And all I'm going to do now is use my rolling pin just to level this out. Remember, you're looking for an even thickness. So all I'm going to do is roll it out a little bit and always give it a turn, and please always turn it over. Right, so simple as that. I normally like to use a mold. You can alternatively find different ways to do this. You can actually also cut it with a knife. Just try and, of course, get a little even sizes, because remember, this is going into the oven. You want it to cook evenly, so it's important that they look exactly the same when they go in. So very simple technique. I'm going to be using this mold to cut, and all I'm going to do is just dust it a little bit in the flour. And all I'm going to do is press it into the board, and please don't think of twisting it, because what happens is once you give your mold a twist, you actually end up with scones that look a little raised on one side and a little flat on the other. So all you do when you press it in, just give it a little shake back and forth, and all you do is lift that, and that goes straight into your tin. And I'll do the same here. Just one press into the board and up you go. And that goes straight in there, and one last press there. Always, and as I said, please don't twist. Give it a shake back and forth while you press it into the board. It actually will just come out on its own. All right. So very, very easy technique. Just to finish that off, I have a little bit of melted butter. And the idea for this is it actually allows for your scones to really get a beautiful color when they go into your oven. So this is just melted butter, and all I'm going to do is I'm going just to use a serviette. This is a little lighter than a brush. So all I'm going to do is just touch and go right over the top of each scone. And be sure to give a nice even coating as well. This is just to make sure you really get that beautiful golden color out of your scones. All right, so easy peasy, so simple as that. So this go into the oven, and they sit in there for about 15 to 20 minutes. While that cooks, I will show you ones that we did do earlier. And this is something like what they look like. So very, very simple, as I said. This take about 15 to 20 minutes to cook. It's very particular that you monitor how they cook, because as you can see, we've got a nice even brownness on the top and the bottom. So this is basically what the butter would do for you. So this, I would just serve it. I would just serve this as they are, and I'll just show you some techniques of how to finish that off. I always like my scones with a bit of jam, so I always have a bit of jam on the side. And last but not least, a bit of cream, a bit of whipped cream will do. It actually gives you a nice velvety finish to your scone. And last but not least, there's nothing more beautiful than some cream chantilly, some nice beautiful cream that's got a bit of vanilla in it. Goes really well with your scone. So all I'm going to do is, so this is just regular whipped cream, and I'm just going to pipe that into my little cup there. So as you can see, very, very simple technique of serving that. So I wouldn't serve this any other way, but you are not limited to serving it as we've done it in the show today. You can actually be able to stuff this as well. So please do feel free to actually cut them open. You can actually just serve it as a sandwich as it is. And there is so many different diverse ways to scones. So from my end, from the studios, it's been a pleasure doing this dish with you. For those who missed on the name, these are English scones. Very, very simple dish. You can now be able to do this on your own. So it's been a pleasure being with you. My name is Chef Andy. You've been watching Lunch Guide. Lovely being with you today, and see you soon.